Welcome to the weekly message from Unity North Tampa, presented here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today's message is Unconditional Love and was recorded on Sunday, May 29th, 2022.
As I said before, I'm so glad to be here, and I am talking this morning on unconditional love. Unconditional love, because this is springtime. For me, that always reminds me of the season of love, although our springtime ended last week when we hit the 90s. It went to summer, just like that for us here in Florida. But we're right between Mother's Day and Father's Day, where we celebrate all of those who have dedicated their lives for us and us for our children. And then we are ready to jump into June, which is the wedding month, where we just celebrate new love and new families and new beginnings. So I thought it was appropriate to talk about love at this time of the year and what the power of unconditional love does. Because we all have been loved, we feel love, we've loved others on a interpersonal level, between you and me, between a parent and a child, between a friend, between a spouse. But that's variations of what we want to talk about this morning, because what I want to talk about is love from a higher level. Love that surpasses all of those various examples of how we see it show up in our lives. Love at a level that encompasses all of those and more. And that's love at a divine level. Because that's really what we're here for in this study of unity principles, in this spiritual journey that we're on, is to get a bigger and larger and grander comprehension and awareness of the presence of the divine in our lives. And that biggest presence is divine love. Charles Fillmore, Unity co-founder, said that love was the unifying principle, the unifying force of the universe. It was the unity harmonizing force that draws all things together. A harmonizing force in the universe. I was here a couple weeks ago and talked about how science and religion come together, and that one force that Charles Fillmore says brings all of the universe together in harmony would probably be explained by theoretical physics. How everything interrelates in the world, how things operate, how they all blend together, how the universe doesn't collide with itself, how nature works, Charles Fillmore says, is simply divine love. It's the harmonizing, unifying force in nature, in the world, in the universe. It's the largest, grandest power of all. He says that not only does it harmonize, but it has a magnetic power. That divine love has the power to draw to you all that your soul needs and desires. That it is that magnetic power of divine love that brings about our prosperity and abundance. As a matter of fact, he said, you can say unity principle affirmations, prosperity affirmations all day long without stop and never reap the benefits or see anything come to fruition in your life if you don't have the power of love behind it. Because it's that divine love that puts into motion all that you are searching for, all that you are trying to bring about. Without the power of love, you can't bring to you all that you're looking for and that you want and that you need. That's the level of divine love. That's the encompassing power of divine love. And he goes on to say, not only do you have this ability to connect with divine love, to bring it into you, to use it, to draw to you all that you need and you want, you also have the power to send it out into the world. He says you have the power to send out divine love into the world with enough force to negate any hate or negative energy coming at you. He says not only can it negate the energy that's coming at you from someone else, it can negate the energy in them and diffuse the energy they're sending to those around them. That's the power of divine love. That you have the power to have within you divine love and send it to others to not only heal yourself, but them without them even knowing it. This is the power of divine love, because it brings everything into harmony. And that negative, hate-filled energy is unharmonious. So what kind of washes it away? He says that divine love also is completely non-discriminating. That if you send divine love to someone, it doesn't matter whether the other person rejects it or accepts it. It doesn't matter. That divine love flows over, around, in, and through them or the situation or the event, because it cannot discriminate on where it is sent and who receives it. To me, that reminds me of like a stream of water. If you've got water coming down a hillside, it can either flow into a field and irrigate the crops, or it can run into a brick cliff, a rock wall, and get turned back on itself or diverted in another direction. But that doesn't change the water itself. It keeps on flowing. Eventually, that rock wall will get smoothed over, and eventually, that water will wear it down and flow over and around it. And that's divine love. It doesn't matter where it's sent or what it hits on the way. It's just going to keep flowing and bringing the gifts of the divine with it. Charles Fillmore also says that divine love, when you are centered in it, you have the power to connect with someone, and they not only receive divine love, they receive all the gifts of your soul. You are connecting to them on a soul level. That all of the 12 powers that he talks about, when you send your love to another person, it connects all the powers within you to them indiscriminately, regardless of whether they want it or not. You'll probably hear Reverend Cynthia Alice tell you a story about a family friend of hers, if she hasn't already, and I love this. It was an older man who was a mentor to her when she was growing up, and she still knows him, and he would always say to her, "I love you, and there is nothing you can do about it." And that's exactly what we're talking about here. You can love someone unconditionally, and they can do nothing about it whatsoever. That divine love flows from you in and through them, whether they like it or not. Isn't that a nice gift to have? That's a power. That's a 12 power. One of those powers. So here's another thing that Charles Fillmore says about divine love is to connect with it. What do? What else? Pray and meditate. Pray and meditate. Because when you meditate, when you are in that space of the silence, if you can go within and meditate on just the thought, the principle of divine love, Charles says you open up a current, a flowing of that divine love in and through you. And there's where you have the power to let it go out to heal the world. And that's what we have the power to do also. It's not just to love another person unconditionally. We can love anything unconditionally. We can love a situation. We can love another country. We can love another political party. We can love an enemy. We can love a different country. We can love someone we're at war with. We can love someone we're not happy with. Someone who's in conflict with us. That's our power. That's what we can do. So Charles says, meditate on divine love. Bring it into your awareness, into your consciousness, into your heart space, so that you have this flow coming in and through you to give out into the world. And the first place that I want to suggest that you send it is to you. Send it to you. Start to love yourself unconditionally. Unconditionally. Not easily done, because we know what we've done. We know our history. We know our past. We know every mistake we've ever made. But I read a great little book, and probably you have too, called The Four Agreements. And then I read The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz and his son, Don Jose Ruiz. And in the Fifth Agreement, they're talking about the agreement of always do your best. And in their book, they're saying, you always do your best. because your best always changes. And what might be your best at 8 o'clock in the morning before your day starts might not be your best at 10 o'clock at night when you've had one of those days. Your best might be different from when you get into the car before you get on the interstate and when you get off the car on the interstate. Your best might be different. But it was your best. It was the best you could do at that point in time. And if we can go back and look at the things we've done and the regrets that we have and the mistakes we've made and give ourselves a little unconditional love and go, I did the best I could. Not to make excuses for what we've done or erase any of the consequences from our actions because, that is part of life. But to say, I did the best I could, opens the door a little bit for a little self-compassion, for forgiveness, and love. Opens it up to allow yourself to love yourself unconditionally, knowing you did your best. And then we take that a little step forward. Because when you look at those places where you were in conflict with somebody and they did something wrong, or I've not forgiven them, or holding a grudge, well, that's what you did, and so we'll never go there again, and I'm never talking to them because they said this, and what if they were doing their best? That was their best. In that moment of conflict, not excusing the behavior, not erasing the results, not saying that you shouldn't still have maybe a boundary around them, but in that moment, in that action, in that situation, they were also just doing their best in that moment. And if they were doing their best also, it was the best they could do. And if that was the best they could do, even if you totally disagree with what they did or how they did it or the event that happened, then perhaps there's a place for compassion, a little forgiveness, and an opening for a little unconditional love. Not excusing, not erasing, not saying it didn't happen, but is there an opening there for a little unconditional love within ourselves and with others? And the Ruizes go on in that book to talk about if you can get to that place that Charles Fillmore was talking about being in unconditional love, then you become completely impersonal. And at first I thought, well, that doesn't sound good. I don't want to be impersonal. But you do become impersonal with your love because now you don't need a reason to love. They don't have to earn your love. They don't have to deserve your love. They don't have to want your love. It's just who you are and what you do. You simply love unconditionally. You still have to operate in the world. You still have to make decisions. You still have to decide who you're going to be in the presence of, whose actions you will allow to happen in your presence, who you like as friends. But even the people you disagree with, you can unconditionally love them because that love is impersonal and it's non-discriminating. It doesn't matter whether they want to be loved. It doesn't matter if someone or you in the back of your human mind thinks they don't deserve it, because you are in a place of unconditional love. You are the sending, proactive force of love experienced in the world, regardless of where it goes, because divine love doesn't care where it's sent. It just goes. It just goes. It's impersonal. It doesn't care. It doesn't discriminate. What it does do is unify and harmonize. Not a bad thing to send out into the world. So we have to be able to practice that in our lives too. And with our family members, sometimes it's really easy to unconditionally love someone, especially little kids, middle schoolers, teenagers, and then some adults. It can be really, really, but family members, it's easy to throw in some unconditional love because they're your babies. They're your parents. They're your siblings. It's easier to open that door to a little compassion. It's easier to throw in a little bit more of that forgiveness and to love them unconditionally, even when you see their faults, even when you see their shortcomings. Because that unconditional love, remember, is that Christ presence in you, loving that Christ presence in them. But then we have to take it a little step further. We have to make it a little bit bigger in the world because we want to extend it beyond our family and close friends. Can we do that with another political party? Can we do that with someone that we're at war with? Could we do that with Russia? Right now, it's so easy to send love and support and prayers to the Ukraine for what they're going through. Can you do it for Russia? There are families over there losing their children. Their sons and daughters are being killed also. Their families are being torn apart. There are people that are doing things and having actions that we don't approve of and we don't want to see happen, and we have the right to send our support to Ukraine to stop it. That's completely good. But can we rise to the level of a divine unconditional love and still send that harmonizing, unifying, indiscriminate power of love to them? Because there's work to be done there also. If it will work in our children, it will work in those we're in conflict with. It will work with those we're in conflict with. And that's probably the hardest place to unconditionally love someone. Probably. Is someone you're in conflict with right now. Can you unconditionally love them through the conflict? Doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden agree with them. Doesn't mean you have to make allowances for them. Doesn't mean that that makes them right. Doesn't mean you changed your mind. Doesn't mean they shouldn't have done what they did. It means, can you unconditionally love them through the conflict? Can you hold them to the same level of Christ awareness that you hold for yourself, for small children, for your friends and family? That's a level of divine love that we ascribe to, that we look to move into. And that's not an easy one to do. Because there are some people who are really, really, really hard to love, and you think you've got all the reasons in the world not to love them. So we look to Jesus, our teacher and way shower. Let's get an example and instructions from Jesus on how to love unconditionally, because his ministry was a ministry of love. At the end of his ministry, he finally said, here's the one. If you don't get anything else, here's the one. Love one another as I've loved you. That's it. You can do that, you got it. And he had to love unconditionally his apostles, because evidently they weren't the brightest crowns in the kingdom. Because he would tell them over and over again, and they, do you get it? No. Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Come on. Stay awake and pray with me. Wake up, pray with me. Come back again. Pray. Come on, guys. Still, loved them unconditionally. Said, well, you'll get this. Stay with me. And he loved them. He fed them. He cared for them. He supported them. And that was the people closest to him. But then, at the end of his life, when he gets pulled out of the garden, beaten all night, dragged through the streets, nailed to a cross, tortured, just before he dies, if he's ever got a group of people that he should not be happy with, it would be the Roman soldiers and the proletariat that had taken him through this night's journey and put him through all of this. And he says, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Hanging, nailed to a tree, he can say, I forgive you. And he can still love them unconditionally, regardless of what they had just done to him. He can hope for their best. He can pray for their souls. He can hold them up and see the Christ presence in each one of them, regardless of their actions. That's a way shower. That's a standard to aspire to. I don't think I could ever get there. I don't think I could. I think I'd have been using some pretty foul language at the people who had done that to me. I'm not real happy with someone who cuts me off in traffic. Much less beat me with a stick. And I've looked at what's happened in Texas with this school shooting. That's hard. That is so hard because you can unconditionally send love and support to those families and your heart breaks for them. But if we take this divine love to the level that Jesus tells us to take it to, then you have to think about the shooter's family too. Take a breath. They lost a child. They lost a family member. Whew, that's not easy. But they deserve unconditional love. And that poor boy who did the shooting, can you open up your hearts and find a little bit of compassion and forgiveness for whatever he had gone through to get him to that point? If I was one of the parents, I don't think I ever could. Honestly, I don't think I could. I hope I could eventually with time. Thinking of my own children scares me to death. If something like that had happened to them when they were younger, absolutely. But that's what Jesus is calling us to. That's the level of divine love, is to look past even the most horrendous of actions and remember that Christ's presence is still within that person. That Christ's presence was still in that boy, regardless of how suppressed and pushed down and hidden and buried it was. It was there and deserves unconditional love. That's hard. That's really hard, but that's what we're called to do, and that's what I think we can do because we are more than this physical being. We are more than this human person who just grieves for the families and are scared to death by the actions and fear for our own children and grandchildren and anyone we know with kids in grade school. And even for our friends who have to go to the grocery store and have to worry about maybe getting shot at the grocery store like happened in Buffalo. Yeah, that's the world we live in. But can we rise above it and still remember that there is this divine power, this unconditional love that's available to us, and we can bring it into our lives and send it out to the world because it harmonizes and unifies and loves indiscriminately, unconditionally. That's our job as truth students. That's our job as spiritual beings, to be that universal, unifying force in the world, regardless of what else is happening around us, to be a little bit above that level of human actions, to remember that there's a power within each and every one of us to love unconditionally, regardless of someone's actions, words, because those are temporary, but their soul's eternal. Can I focus on their soul? I hope so. I try to. I fail sometimes. But that's what we're called to do. Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. That doesn't mean he didn't kick over some tables and kick some people out of the temple either, because their behavior was absolutely unacceptable. But he didn't say he wasn't loving them through it all. He was saying, you don't get to do that anymore. Still love you, but you don't get to do that anymore. That's the example we want to live up to. That's the level of divine love. That's the unconditional love that we want to bring into our lives and bring into the world because, as Charles says, it's the power of the universe. It's the one overriding force in the world. And the more we have of that, the better the world will be. Unconditional love is love for the simple intention of loving. It's just that simple. You love unconditionally because you simply have the intention to love. So I invite you in this coming day, in this coming week, in this coming month, as things unfold in your life, as encounters begin or end with you, to go back and remember, but my intention is to do this with love. And when I fail and totally mess it up, I go back and do my forgiveness work and send them love in hindsight. Because it still works. It's indiscriminate. It's impersonal. It doesn't matter. They don't need to earn. I can send them the love later. If I messed it up in the moment, I can go back and send it later because my intention is to be loving. Unconditional love is simply loving for the intention of loving. And I invite you to practice and let me know if anybody gets it perfect.
Thank you for listening to the weekly message from Unity North Tampa here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com. This message is copyright 2022, Unity North Tampa, all rights reserved. Our theme music, The Light of God, is composed by Shannon Croft and used with permission and available at shannoncroft.com. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.